Hey, it's Kurt with KH Model Works. This is another installment of the F-105 update video. This is for the Buddy build with David Chin. I have assembled the fuselage halves, and I'm working on the seam. Started sanding here. I did get the fuselage halves mated pretty well, pretty evenly. I did that by going one section at a time and using Mr. Cement SP. This is fast-acting plastic cement. So what I did was, I started at the nose, and I got them lined up as best as I could. As you can see, if you don't get it lined up just right, there'll be a bit of a step, right? Or one fuselage half is higher than the other, and then you have to use a ton of putty or a lot of sanding to get that right. And then I just, applied the cement just for that section. It held it tight, and this cement sets pretty quickly. So then, without too much delay, I can move on and then do this section. Wait, and then I went back and did the bottom. So that way, it helped keep the fuselage halves as aligned as possible. If you try to do it all at once, it can slip, and then you have the step, which is really hard to deal with. And I didn't want to have the step in the fuselage halves. So that's where this is going, and I'll keep updating this video as I go. Alright, so a few days have passed since the last installment in this series, and as you can see, it looks like an airplane now. I glued the wings on the fuselage. The fuselage seam was pretty easy. After gluing it together in sections, mostly what I had to do was sand, and just sand very carefully. There was a section here where the seam popped apart, and I glued it back together. And then down here there's a section here and a section here, which were sprue attachment points. And there I had to use some black CA to fill the voids. But actually, so I got away with using next to no kind of filling on this whatsoever. Now in the wing root, it's kind of hard to see because the dark plastic, the lighting, and the shadows. There's a bit of a gap in here, just right here and right here. The rest of this doesn't have really a gap to speak of. So if I want to fill that in, traditionally I would use putty or something, but what I don't want to do is have to get in there and try to sand in there, because then it's difficult to sand in there without sanding everything else that you don't want to destroy. So I'm going to figure out the best way to get in there and do it without having to sand, and I've got a couple of alternatives that I'll try. So that's what's going on with this, and I'll catch you in the next update. Okay, and the part that I forgot to mention was I also sanded the seams on these fuel tanks. And so the next step, I need to sand the seams on all these bombs. When I'm working on the model, now I've finally learned to keep all the loose parts in a plastic bag or some kind of container, because they will get lost. So I need to sand the seams on the ordnance. Then I can move on to primer and paint. Okay, so it's only a few minutes later, and I was wondering what I had that I could try to fill this in and keep going. Then I remembered I had Bondic. This is UV clearing glue, right? So I remembered it had a pretty nice fine applicator. So I worked some into that seam and then used the UV light to make a cure, and it seems to have done the trick. So this might be a good way to quickly bond seams or fill gaps. We'll see how it takes paint. So it's probably not the answer to everything, but in some cases this might be a good alternative. Like I said, we'll just have to see, and we'll learn together. Thanks, guys. Hey, okay, this is the last part of this video. I think this is a good place to wrap it up. I'm trying to hold the camera as steady as I can. Alright, so I've just finished washing the model and the bombs and the fuel tanks and getting them ready for paint. So I'm going to leave this one here, finish this video here, and The next step will be to primer and paint, so the next video will be mostly about painting this model. And just a quick look. There's the bums and the wheels. And there's the airframe. So I need to glue some little pieces on, but I'll do that right before I primer it, and then, well, you'll see all that in the next video. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.